I'm a little surprised by how much I ended up liking Itsy Bitsy Spider. I think I can tell this was probably one of the episodes that was really Americanized and didn't actually have very much Sentai footage. I really like the monster feels sort of Predator-like visually, aesthetically. Um, there's something really interesting about when they either don't have a monster to rely on or they remake it for American audiences. It is really creepy, the fact that they put a hole in the middle of it with like the dragon Megazord lance or whatever it is. It's kind of interesting. It's also interesting that Jason and Tommy don't drive the dragon Megazord, I guess, at least not in this episode. Um, which is really cool. I also like it's kind of a surprise Zack episode. They're all in the episode. Tommy, not very much again. I still think they should have been like, in 3 episodes, you'll come back. I feel like I've learned he's a little bit of a prankster, but I don't know much about Tommy still, other than he really, really likes to do whatever version of karate he is that he does. This time with the sword, in fact. That seems to be all he does. And it only looks slightly different from when he does it when he's evil Tommy, when he's good Tommy, because when he's good Tommy, it's slightly more measured. But if you asked me what his personality currently is, it would be working out. Um, But that's about Tommy, which is who is in this episode but isn't really in the episode. This episode is like a secret Zack episode. He has a fear of bugs, which is not necessarily a fear of spiders, but they equate like cockroaches and spiders and like butterflies all together as things Zack doesn't like that is a bug. Which would have made 1999 a special hell for him because that's when the year Bug's Life and Ants both came out, which was a banner year for the bug-loving community, as it were. Um, yeah, the second half of the episode, once it gets out of sort of the premise pitch of the episode, which is about um, saving a statue and turning it into a historic landmark, which ends up what's happening. This is the second or third episode like that. This is also a kind of blueprint episode for things that make you grow that scare you, sort of thing. I can see there's an episode in Jungle Fury where the Blue Ranger goes through this. There's a couple episodes, I think, in Dino Charge. When you have an episode about you're going to get scared by this, but you're going to grow from it, this feels like a pilot for that version of the episode. I will say, Walter Emmanuel Jones, like, I can tell why he was cast on Space Cases. I can tell why he did a lot of like sitcoms. I think of the 5 original Rangers, and even I would add Jason David Franken, he feels the most expressive when he gets a chance to express himself, which is not as often as it should have been. He clearly has the charisma. He has a sense of timing, has a sense of character. He's also very light on his feet, which seems like, yeah, well, he's the Black Ranger. The Black Ranger does hip hop keto, but he's also just very light on his feet mechanically, which makes me think a bit of like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air a little bit. He did an episode of something called Malcolm X, which I think was a film. He did Family Matters, which I remember. He did an episode of Sabrina the Teenage Witch, which I remember. He did obviously Brink, which was a Disney Channel original movie. Um, yeah, enjoy I really enjoy Walter Manuel Jones's work as Zack when we get to see it. This is a really good episode for him when it gets out of its own way. I am a little distracted by the fact that I can tell they are models, more so in some episodes than others, but specifically in this episode, it's a little distracting that they have to do um, the Dragon Megazord, not because it's bad necessarily. Aesthetically, in some ways, it matches the Megazord really nicely, the classic battle Megazord, obviously. But they don't stay in for very long. The pacing of the battle is really weird. It escalates at a weird pace. It gets like I think that in a longer formatted episode or in a different version of this, you could easily just have this be a Black Ranger takes down the villain episode. Um, Because they face stuff that's a lot worse than just like a spider that can freeze you to the spot and has like minions, butterflies that can make a person fall asleep. Um, I do feel real issue with the villain. Like, I feel like the villain could have done a lot of damage. They had a secondary lightning based power, which was kind of cool. I could see this being very popular for a tabletop game, but this is the sort of villain you take like half an hour to fight, assess, and another half an hour. It just isn't something you do in a 20-minute episode. I do think the escalation wasn't necessarily warranted. Um, it felt like they had to shoehorn Tommy in to remind the characters that he was there. But this is an episode where I felt they could have probably not had Tommy in it and still had it been a perfectly acceptable episode. I don't know if it's as good in pacing as Happy Birthday, Zack, so it's farther down on the list. It's much closer. Um, it's after the top 10. I had to think about it really hard because originally I was going to put it kind of up there, but I felt it wasn't as good as I Guy. Um, and I felt it kind of beat out some of the bigger episodes like No Clowning Around a little bit. Um, it's fine. It just feels like it was an episode made for Zack to shine, and then they remembered they had other characters, and so they shoehorned them all in. There's a subplot with Billy. Um, Trini is the one trying to save the statue, as far as I can tell, which is nice to hear her like say things and be excited. Uh, I guess Zack is afraid of bugs, but he just seems to be afraid of things that are bug-like. Because again, butterflies are not bugs. I feel like I'm like the class from Calvin Hobbes and he's doing his bats are bugs thing and they're yelling back, bats aren't bugs. Um, so that's really like it shows a little bit of the age of the people it's intended for at the original time period. It's not bad. Zach does fantastic work. I mean, arguably he's as talented in this and working as hard as the actors who play Bulk and Skull that do sort of a Chris Farley, Abbott, and Costello routine quite a bit. They are really kind of mean in this episode. Like the antagonism is really there from them more in a way than it's from Rita because they just dump out a whole bunch of bugs in the hallway. For many reasons, that is not great. Like they take a lot of pleasure in giving pain this episode in ways they haven't really done before. Not to say they were a complete danger, but to say like if that's what they do bullying like at its height is pretty bad. Um, I also like this as an episode as a tabletop game designer because there's a real sense of that this set of Power Rangers is really about community and about honor. So, like, you could actually take this episode and a couple of the other ones about saving things in the city and really make a case for, like, these are Power Rangers linked to conservation, these are Power Rangers linked to community. Like, you can really use episodes like this to give a real sense of what this team is about. Because all Ranger teams feel like they're sort of about something, is what I approach my game design as. Season 2 Rangers, even if they're wearing the same suits, even just briefly, feel different. Season 3 Rangers feel differently. The Alien Rangers feel different. In Space, Lost Galaxy, etc. Every Ranger team feels like they come from a little different, not just aesthetically, but also in how they approach Rangering as a group. Some are much more like out there, and you can really tell like Wild Force has a big message. Dino Thunder has a big anniversary message, which I think my Ben White didn't succeed as well, and we'll get there. I think Mystic Force had an interesting message, but it was lost in trying to be too like wink, wink, nudge, nudge to the audience. And only because I know the Sentai is so much better, Megaforce and Super Megaforce could have been cool. And then, um, yeah, I think this is a good episode if you're a Zack fan because we do get to see him. He has a hip hop keto class that he teaches, which is really cool. Working with kids. Again, I don't have a dance background, so I don't know if it's even like a technically competent thing that he's doing, or if it's just like one really easy dance move that he's repeated because it's sort of the same move he did last time we saw him dance. It's not bad. And I'm not going to comment on that because that's not my space. But like for hip hop keto, I really want to see him get to the level where it's perceived Tommy to be at, um, in a way. And I don't know. I'm excited because I know there's an episode coming up where we get to know Tommy a bit better and know that he's not intentionally scatterbrained, but there's a little bit of that. I know in the Boom comic book, before they bring in Tommy, they actually have Rita offer Zack the Black Candle and offer to basically give him the Dragon Shield. Uh, Essentially the same thing, Tommy, except they know each other. So like she tries to bargain with him a little bit. Um, and I get the same sense here that he wouldn't like give in to Rita. Like there's a really great actor there that I can see. The charisma is definitely there. When he gets a chance to shine, Walter Jones does a really good job at what he does. Um, yeah, I think this was, if it hadn't been sort of in the way of itself, feeling like it needed a secondary plot line, they could have built this really easily as a Zack episode. It's on par in some manners with Happy Birthday, Zack. Obviously, the spider isn't the same as Nasty Night. There is some overlap with how they get the statue containing the spider on their side. Zack is really competent. There's some pacing issues where the other Rangers aren't in the scene for plot reasons that involve them finding yet another flower that does a thing. Um, I don't think there's many of these flower seeking episodes left. I think that this might be the last one because I can't remember. I don't think in the second gen with Rocky, Aish, and Adam they had a lot of flower finding episodes. I think that's the part of the where I can be like, yes, I'm seeing Sentai footage reimagined very easily for, the outer LA desert or whatever it is. Um, it's not bad. It's a good Zack episode, but it's overall not good enough that I can rank it as high as I potentially would. Like if it were earlier in the series, I'm not even sure if it would make the top five on top five list or a top six list now, because we have six Rangers. Yeah, but that's Itsy Bitsy Spider. It's not a bad episode, but just be aware of the audience it was written for, I guess. It's not quite as infantilizing as For Whom the Bell Tolls. Um, but it's pretty good. If you're a Zack fan, if you're a Black Ranger fan, love to see him use the power axe as a weapon, in the shooting form. That's a really good one. Um, Yeah, I enjoyed it as a Zack episode. If I could recut it to just be a Zack episode, I think it would be really good. It probably would have been higher in that manner, actually. Uh, yeah, so it's Itsy Bitsy Spider. Next time coming up, we have a Kimberly themed episode, I think, called The Spitflower. And here is where I'm guessing that Amy Jo Johnson had a conversation potentially about getting a raise with management because this is the first time we're going to hear about the world peace thing, which is going to be um, in season two, the catalyst for some of the cast leaving, um, and then kind of in season three for why Kimberly kind of goes off on her own to do some things. But we're going to get the first inkling of that next episode. So I'm interested to see what that looks like. But Itsy Bitsy Spider. It happened. Uh, the spider's more beetle-like. So if you're afraid of spiders, you shouldn't have a problem with this episode. But again, spiders aren't bugs. Butterflies aren't bugs. I'd argue there's, except for the cockroaches in the opening premise, there's not actually much bug-like stuff for Zack to be afraid of. But it's a great Zack episode otherwise. So, yeah. We'll see you next time, where when you call and Zord answers, he'll probably say, May the power protect you.